Vinland Saga, Episode 12, A Country on the Other Side, let's do it! So this episode's going to be a little bit different than the ones in the past. There's very little fighting. Actually, I don't even know if there's any fighting whatsoever in this episode. But there is a lot of interesting character developments and plot developments as well. So let's get right into it. So Askeladd and his men are escaping from Thorkel. They're basically on foot. They're walking away. They're using horses. And it seems like Thorkel is catching up to them relatively quickly. They had like a 2-day lead, and then it goes down to 1 day. So they're trying to find a way to get away from him. They only have about 100 men at the moment, and Prince Canute, and Thorkel has 500 men. So they have to find a way to escape from his grasp. It looks like they're probably not sleeping too much, and they're probably taking a few shortcuts to close the distance. So Askeladd's got to find a way. He knows he can't fight Thorkel and his men. He's at a numbers disadvantage, and Thorkel's a freaking beast. He could probably kill 100 men just by himself. So it's like, not a good battle to get involved in. And I like the fact that Askeladd is portrayed as a very cunning and smart man, and he knows when he can't win a battle, so he's not going to just foolishly rush in and try to ambush Thorkel. He knows when he needs to evade him. So he requests some help, the help of the Welsh people, the people of Wales. And they help him get across a large river and over to Wales. And from there, they decide that they're going to walk to a kingdom where they could basically hand over Canute and basically collect their reward from the King of Danes. Of course, it's not going to be that easy because it looks like at the end of the episode, Thorkel, the King of Danes, and the Jomvikings set up an ambush for Askeladd and his men, and it's very reminiscent of the situation in which Thors got ambushed by Askeladd. You know, we see that there's a lot of archers on the cliffs, and, their path is being blocked off, and it looks like they really can't retreat whatsoever. So they're going to probably get in a battle to the death with these archers and the Jomvikings, and we got to see what happens. I mean, is Askeladd going to meet his end? Is Prince Canute going to be captured? It seems like a situation in which the King of Danes doesn't want to reward Askeladd for capturing the prince. So he's like, you know what? I'll set up a situation where I just take him back by force, kill Askeladd, and that will be that. Then I don't have to worry about him doing his own little thing and messing up my plans. I could just do things how I want to do them. So that seems to be what's in the cards at the moment. Now, will Askeladd escape from the situation with the help of Thorfinn and his 100 Vikings? We'll just have to wait and see how that all develops. Now, this episode, like I mentioned, is very methodical. We get some interesting character developments, especially with Prince Canute and Askeladd. Now, Prince Canute says his first words in the episode. It took 12 episodes, but we finally got something out of him. And it does seem like a him. I know they were kind of hinting at the fact that maybe Prince Canute was a princess, maybe he was a she, but it just seems like it is a boy, a very fragile beta male who doesn't seem to have any sort of alpha characteristics and doesn't seem to have any confidence, and even when was pressed to answer a question, hid behind one of his men like a scared little child. So this seems like a boy that was coddled all of his life and was really given no sort of opportunity to develop as a person. And now he's just being thrown in the midst of war and expected to become some sort of great hero and king. So, that seems like a great idea. That seems like that's how you develop a man. Prince Canute, a very weak-minded character, physically, emotionally, spiritually. So we'll have to see if Prince Canute can somewhat come out of that fragile mindset and develop into a strong leader, or if maybe Prince Canute will just wither under the pressure and this will be his life and he'll just be always scared and alone and fearful of taking charge and making decisions and even talking. And then we also learn a bit about Askeladd as well. He mentions early in the episode how he can tell if a man is smart or strong or weak just by looking at them, just by staring at their face. He's developed a sort of a sixth sense, if you will, where he can just look at facial features, the way you carry yourself, body language, and he can just tell what type of person you are. And he can tell right away that Prince Canute is a pretty weak person. I would say this is a very good episode. I mean, I like the fact that when they were escaping from Thorkel, you saw their carriage getting stuck in the mud, and you saw that, you know, they were definitely tired and exhausted and get kind of at their wits' end. They just weren't getting a lot of sleep, so they're like, oh my gosh, when are we finally going to just get out of the situation, hand over Prince Canute so we can finally rest and enjoy our riches? So this was a nice episode. I like this little methodical build-up and the slow tension to the eventual climactic moments at the end of the episode. So this was actually a good episode. It's kind of interesting because you know how their carriage got stuck in the mud and they were struggling kind of pushing it out and they were using logs to kind of dislodge it. I'm thinking to myself, okay, now this is very realistic. This is what you expect to happen in the past, quite often, especially in the rain and the mud. But then you think about a previous episode in which they were running with a frickin' boat on their shoulders, and then you're like, okay, they went from totally unrealistic to a real world situation, and it's like, well, you already kind of set up the fact that you're gonna break the rules, and now you went back to being super realistic and not breaking the rules of human physicality. So it's like, which is it at this point? Are you just gonna, you know, kind of flip back and forth whenever you feel it's necessary, you know, during the battles? Well, we'll stretch the limits of human possibilities because, you know, we want to make exciting battles, but then we want to make things look rugged and tough too, so we're going to make natural circumstances sort of halt their progression. That's something that I don't know how you reconcile that, but it is what it is. That's the way the story's being told. I'm not complaining, you know, I already said at this point, I'm sort of willing to look past all those unrealistic circumstances, and if they want to go back to being super realistic in some episodes, whatever, you know, there's still very interesting character developments and plot points going on. Otherwise, there was a weird moment where Prince Canute, like, his first words were like, oh, that hawk is flying low, can you capture it for me? And they didn't really elaborate on that at all. And I'm thinking to myself, like, what's going on there? Why did he want that hawk? They just didn't really talk about it. And they also did mention that Thorfinn and Prince Canute were the same age, which I kind of suspected already. So it'll be interesting if those two have any sort of character interactions, because you got the brooding, off-puttish Thorfinn who's just out for vengeance and ruthless, and then you got the meek, shallow, wishy-washy Prince Canute who can't be asked to do anything of any importance because he's too scared. So that sort of juxtaposition will be interesting, especially, like, let's say, for example, that Askeladd and his men meet his demise, and Thorfinn and Prince Canute are like the sole survivors, and they're going back to Denmark alone, and they have to interact with each other. That could be a very interesting dynamic, and maybe even something I'm sort of hoping for. I don't want Askeladd to die because I feel like he's one of the best characters in the show at this point, but that sort of seems to be what the tea leaves are pointing towards. You know, it's the same. He's meeting his demise the way he set up Thor's demise. So it's kind of what comes around goes around. And then that would be very interesting too, because if Askeladd ends up dying in this battle, what does Thorfinn do with himself? His whole mission in life is to avenge his father, and the only way he sees that he can avenge his father is to kill the man who killed his father, which is Askeladd. But if Askeladd is no longer there, if he gets assassinated in this ambush, how does Thorfinn reconcile his life? How does he make sense of everything? And how does he push forward? How does he grow as a character? So I'm thinking, the more I talk about this, the more I just kind of pontificate. I think that almost has to happen now, because that would throw a monkey wrench into everything that Thorfinn is trying to accomplish. So yeah, I think I've said enough. I'm sort of rambling and kind of bouncing back and forth throughout the story, but this was a really good episode, guys. I mean, I really enjoyed it. I think a lot of people are probably not going to enjoy it because it was slower paced, methodical, more exposition than fighting. So some people may sort of draw the conclusion that not a lot happened. You have to appreciate these little developments when you get them, and appreciate them for what they are. Because, wars and battles are not just all, oh, I'm gonna kill you, it's all action-packed. Those things happen, but they're few and far between, especially in a time period where it takes a long-ass time to travel to towns and cities and countries, So I like these episodes where they show that, hey, there's a different aspect of war that you don't always consider. It's the lack of sleep, it's the traveling, it's the crossing rivers, making alliances that are eventually broken. So that's, I feel like this is a really good episode, and possibly out of the 12, one of the best. It's definitely up there. I would probably say it's, top 2 or top 3. So let's leave it there for now. We got to see what happens in the next episode. We'll probably go from a methodical, slow episode to a very high-paced, action-packed episode next. And we'll have to see if Askeladd meets his demise. I feel like that may happen, but I'm not sure because I haven't read the manga. Anyway, we'll leave it there for now, and I'll catch you on the flip side.